Sonic Dream Team. Aside from the controversy of it being an Apple Arcade exclusive, it's actually a pretty good game. Sure, it's not super complex or crazy, but it's a mobile game, and I think that's perfectly fine. But if you know me, you know that I do not have an iPhone. Always been an Android guy. So what gives? Well, I found an M1 Mac Mini just sitting near a dumpster. So I cleaned it up, set it up, investigated the internals for any damage, and everything works fine. So my guess is that somebody's girlfriend probably recently got very upset at them. However, you want to hear me talk about the game and not how a now single guy got me a way to play the game. So honestly, Sonic Dream Team is not that special. It is, however, good. It did take me a bit to fully get used to the controls, which you can see in the gameplay, but that's not really an issue with the game. Gameplay wise, it's the average 3D Sonic game. Every character that I have played as so far has boost and a homing attack, and there are really only 3 characters in this game, with the other 3 being essentially reskins. Sonic and Amy have the lightspeed dash and an air dash, which isn't that good, but still works. Tails and Cream can fly, and Knuckles and Roach can climb. I have not played as Knuckles or Roach yet, so I cannot make a comment on how well the climbing controls are. For the other 2 though, Sonic obviously has the air dash and lightspeed dash. The homing attack, which again every character has, doesn't feel super forced. It is required to get some extra collectibles. That's how most Sonic games are, and the lightspeed dash works how you would expect. The lightspeed dash and homing attack are on the same button, while the air dash is on a different button. Tails can fly, and at first I was honestly confused as to how exactly it worked, but TLDR, the gauge is for going up, not for total flight time. Without your gauge filled at all, you can fly horizontally for a bit before falling down. At first, I thought you were supposed to mash to fly. However, you're supposed to just hold the jump button to fly. Level wise, there are a few acts per zone, and you need to play through each act multiple times, but usually in different areas and with a different objective, which is not as repetitive as it sounds. Trust me. In general, both the characters and controls feel good. I cannot make a comment on touch controls for obvious reasons, but the game has native controller support and the default controls are good, though you may want to change the sensitivity of the camera, which is a little high, but I'm used to high sensitivity, so. Graphically, the game looks pretty good. Well, for a mobile game. In simple terms, it could probably run on the Nintendo Switch with some proper optimization, which means probably like mediums and high settings with some upscaling, but due to this being funded by Apple, with the terms of it being an Apple Arcade exclusive, that's unfortunately probably never happening. In technical terms, the base M1 can power through this game at max settings with a stable 60 FPS, which is not fully represented in the screen recording. Story-wise, it's pretty basic, but it's not boringly basic. I never got the feeling of, man, this sucks. That's usually how it is for Sonic games. Some cutscenes are rendered in-game, but the majority are, to put it simply, picture shows, which is not a bad thing. Due to this mainly being a mobile game, they probably had to consider that most people would prefer to play the game longer, meaning just render less and have more pictures, or they might not have had the budget to animate every cutscene, which, again, perfectly fine. I won't go in depth on the plot here, but it does make sense and is definitely on the upper end of mobile side game stories. Boss fights are somewhat similar to that of Sonic Superstars, where you have to wait for a chance to attack the boss, but it is not even half as tedious as Superstars, which is a huge plus. Dodge some attacks, get close to the boss, and then attack yourself. It's very simple, but unlike Superstars, I never, again, thought once to myself, man, this sucks, I wish it was faster. Think of it similar to how Mario 3D World or the older Sonic Adventure games handle their boss fights. Overall, while I haven't beaten the game yet, which means I might make another review, it's definitely a very enjoyable experience, and I do wish more people can try it out someday, either via an emulator or Apple lifting the Apple Arcade restriction, as honestly, this game would have sold incredibly well if it were released day one on all major platforms. For now, I'll give it an 8 out of 10, as it's still basic, but again, it's not boring. It's very enjoyable. That's all for this video. One day I'll probably make a review on Macos itself, as I'm sure some of you may have been convinced to pick up an old, used Mac Mini or MacBook to play this game. This game can run on both Intel and Apple Silicon Macs, but just go wild. Then after you're done playing Sonic Dream Team, you could probably use it as an emulation device, because honestly Macs are pretty good for emulation. Anyways, see y'all later. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.